Today, we're talking about what does it take to write an excellent book. So stay tuned.
Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on their journey to publication. I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
And I'm Christina Catane, and I write Christian fantasy.
And we're still down one host, unfortunately. Rhonda Hagerman is out for some medical reasons, and I know that our entire audience is praying for her, and we are as well. We miss you, Rhonda. We hope we'll see you again soon. We'd like to thank you all for listening. We have people in our live chat already. Good morning, Piper and Teresa and Gigi. It's really good to see you all today. They're all greeting us. And we thank you also if you're listening to our show after the fact on any of the platforms where you can find your favorite podcasts. We hope we number among them. And tell all your friends about our podcast. Like and subscribe and help spread the word about the Christian Indie Writers Podcast so we can help encourage and support even more writers. If you like what we do, tell a friend. If you hate what we do, tell everyone you know. All right. We like to start each episode with a segment we call What's Up? We go around the virtual table and ask each host, what's up? And so we'll start with you, Jen. What's up?
Another snowstorm. Not even kidding. So my whole week has been sinus headaches, unbelievable pressure in my head because we keep going back and forth between 40 some degree weather and all out blizzard. And right now we're kind of in the middle of an all out blizzard. And so, it was really hard to get out of bed today because the headaches have been so bad and I've been taking medicine and that's, helping, but I still have pressure. I took the medicine this morning and I took some other and I still feel this pressure right through here and here. And it's just but according to my father, there's another storm on the way for next Friday too. It's out west somewhere and we're supposed to get hit again next Friday. So yeah, I mean, I should be used to it because it's Michigan, but I don't mind.
It just seems so late. That seems so late.
Kind of. I mean, it snowed on my birthday before. My birthday's in May. So, I mean, it kind of feels late. It depends on where in Michigan you live. In the UP right now, they have feet of snow.
Sure.
And it's just a different culture. But it's the going back and forth that is driving me crazy. I wish we just keep the snow and then decide to slowly get warm as opposed to having really nice day and then
weather hokey pokey.
Yeah, and Gigi, no one cares. No one cares. Gigi said, "Still no snow for me." Ha ha
ha. I think it's time to go visit Gigi. Where is she?
Catherine Carroll's also in our chat. Hi, Catherine. Good to see you this morning. And then our good friend Shell. Hi, Shell. Piper says, "Ooh, we had that a few years ago. Every single weekend was a snowstorm. This year, we've had a total of less than 6 inches, I think." Yeah, not us. We're going to have at least 6 inches today. So
how bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
what about you, Jamie? What's up with you?
Well, what's so funny is I've been hungry for a while for sauerkraut, and I usually make it with some beer brats or other brats, whatever. And I was going to do just cabbage. And then I'm like, why? When I've been wanting sauerkraut. So I came home and I put everything in the pot to make it. And then it happened to be the day of our podcast meeting. And I think you said something first, Jennifer, but I was going to say something to you about how my house was smelling so good. And what did you say?
I said, I've been craving sauerkraut and Polish sausage. So I made it today, in the Instant Pot. And you're like, guess what's in my Instant Pot right now? Of all the things we weren't making tacos the same day or spaghetti the same day. No, Polish sausage. Or did you do Polish sausage or what?
Brats.
Brats. Okay, yeah. Sausage and sauerkraut. We both did, and it was just so random.
Yes.
So how did yours turn out?
It came out fine. Well, what I had done was because I wanted potatoes in it, but I didn't want to peel potatoes or cut them. Mm-hmm. So I just got hash brown cubes to throw in there. And I think it would have been fine. And it still was fine for me, but anybody else might have been like, this is weird, because it ended up kind of being like mashed potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like a strange sort of texture. But then do you know what that did? That made for really good like potato pancakes. So like I
Oh.
fried it. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it just
Mm.
added another flavor dimension. I mean, it's all gone now. It's all gone. And it was only me to eat it. I ate it
Yeah.
all.
When you said you threw potatoes in yours, I was like, that makes me think of pierogies, and now I want pierogies. Like, for those of you
Mhm.
that don't know, pierogies are like a Polish, right? A Polish, like
Mhm.
almost like a pasta kind of a thing that like it's almost kind of like a ravioli, but either mashed potatoes inside or sauerkraut inside. I like when they would put the cheesy mashed potatoes inside and then have sauerkraut on the side of it. So good. So I'm trying like since Tuesday, I've been thinking like, how could I make keto pierogies? Mine long enough. Like it was everything when you do sauerkraut and sausage, everything's already cooked. Like you don't do it like it's already pre-cooked. But my mom's recipe was all right. So here's the secret Judy Carl recipe. She would do sauerkraut and she would rinse it so it wasn't just all the juice. So sauerkraut and either a Werner's or a beer because she got this from her Polish friends and Polish sausage, but it has to be good, high quality Polish sausage and caraway seeds. I didn't have any caraway seeds and I didn't cook it long enough. I did, I had keto ginger ale, which that's what Werner's is for those of you outside of the area. And I used, oh, and brown sugar. Sorry, brown sugar. And I had keto brown sugar. So the taste was there. It just needed to cook longer to where the sauerkraut turns like almost brown and the meat is just really saturated. So
Mhm.
again, I'm gonna do it again. I only did it in the Instant Pot. My mom always did it like and cooked it all day long.
All day.
All
Yeah.
day. And I don't have who's got time for that. So I did it in
Well,
the Instant Pot, but I didn't do it long enough. So I gotta do it longer.
I'm
and I
with
know
Cindy, who says she doesn't think the words will ever fall from her mouth. Hungry for sauerkraut.
You
Cindy
haven't
and
had
I
my
are in that
sauerkraut.
same club.
and Jen, I know you didn't use beer because you didn't call me for advice about like what beer to buy or how to find it in the store.
Or we gotta do I know we have to get to the podcast episode, but I gotta tell this story now. So I was really sick once. Nothing was cutting it. And I remember that when I was fresh out of college, my roommate, I was that sick then, and it was going on for 2 weeks and I just couldn't get over it. And my roommate was like, you gotta have a hot toddy. And I'm like, no, I don't drink alcohol. She's like, you gotta have a hot toddy. So she came home from work one day and I was just so sick and she brought the stuff for hot toddy and she made me a hot toddy and made me take it. And I'm not kidding. The next day I was all better. Like it was like, so I went to the store. I'm like, I'm going to get the stuff to make a hot toddy. I looked online. I'm like, okay, this is what I need. And I go to Meijer and I go to the alcohol section and I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. And I was like, it was funny. So I called Jamie. I'm like, Jamie, I'm in Meijer. I don't know what I'm like. It was just so many bottles. I just didn't know what to do. It was so funny. And I'm like, my pastor's going to show up. And I'm like, grabbing a giant bottle of, I don't even know what it is that I bought. So like, and she's dying laughing on the phone with me, like teasing me and thinking it was the funniest thing ever. So oh, golly. Anyway, so how did yours turn out? Enough about me. How did yours?
Oh, like I said, it was fine, except the texture was probably off-putting for most, but I
Gotcha.
really, really enjoyed it. Ate it all. Ate every
Oh,
bit of it.
yum.
Shell says she loves us because her mom used to make homemade sauerkraut. I've done that before. I'm not good at it. And she made spätzle. I think that's how you say it when we cooked it. Yum. And I've seen
Spätzle is it like pork? Isn't it like a
I know,
it's like a
little
dumpling.
noodles.
Yeah.
oh
Yeah. And so they're like string noodles, like they're little bits, you know what I mean? And so they're like teeny ones. I've wanted to try spätzle, but
It's
it
kind of
seems
like the buttered
tricky.
noodles at Frankenmuth,
I was just gonna
but
say
cut
that.
up smaller. It's very similar to
The
that.
buttered noodles up there are so good. Teresa says she loves sauerkraut and it's supposed to be really good for you. It is really good for your gut, but I just did some research and found out that you're supposed to get the unpasteurized kind, which you normally find like in the refrigerated section. So next time that's what I'm gonna try. Because I was at Aldi and I saw the jar and I'm like, yes, I'm gonna do some. Piper says I honestly have never had it or desire for it. Shell says
she's
she
never
made them
had
by
it?
hand. So not little, more like dumpling, the lazy way. Oh, if you have the recipe, I would love that. I would love for you to send that to us.
That
Let's
sounds like
see.
my mom's Polish egg dumplings, honestly.
Possibly, yeah.
Catherine says near Traverse City, we've got almost nothing. Get out, really?
No
That's
sauerkraut in Traverse
No,
City?
no, she's talking about snow.
Oh, okay. No, just kidding.
Part of the reason I was excited to move here from Metro Detroit was snow, and we've been robbed this year. Did you
Aw,
just
wah,
move there?
wah.
I'm interested. Teresa says our kids have a snow day today. Yeah, the whole area where we live. I know you don't live super close to us, but
Except my
in Michigan.
granddaughter's school. Like, they're the only school
Oh.
in
Are you
Michigan
kidding?
that's not on the list, and I
Flint
don't know.
Community Schools, like when Flint Community Schools close down, you know everyone's closed down. They're the
She's in
last school to
charter
close.
school, and they're their
Oh,
own school district. It's
I
really
see.
weird.
Yeah. Well, she said that her kids have a snow day and just tipped over their allowed days off, so they'll have to make it up. That stinks. I really do feel bad about that. So, all right,
Well,
am I
hopefully the
missing-
weather will be bad on the days they have to make it up, and they won't be sad to have to be in school.
Right, exactly.
What's up with you, Tina?
Well, I have had 2 weeks of I don't even know what the word is.
Well, first
So-
of all, welcome back. It's good to have
Thank
you
you.
back.
We had a death in the family. It was a cousin that I'm very close to, so it was very hard. It was I don't want to say it was unexpected, but it was. Like, she fell in November on her front porch and went in to be checked over, and they found a tumor on her pancreas,
Hmm.
and it wasn't. I don't believe it was cancerous, but they were going to do this procedure to remove the tumor from the head of her pancreas, and they nicked an artery
Mhm.
when they did the surgery, and she just never really recovered.
Oh my word.
So it wasn't supposed, like, she wasn't supposed to die
Mhm.
from this. And so she planned her own funeral. Like, it's almost like she knew. In January, she contacted her pastor. She contacted the people she wanted to sing. She contacted the guy she wanted to do her eulogy. She like planned the entire funeral.
Hmm.
He's even picking each song that she wanted sung. And
Mm.
everybody said, we were telling her, yeah, that won't be for years.
Right.
And then it ended up happening. So that was really hard. So we drove. I drove to Indiana to meet up with my other cousin, and then we drove to northern Minnesota from Indiana. And God smiled on us, and I know a lot of people were praying for good weather. We pretty much had sunshine and clear skies the entire way up to Minnesota.
That's awesome.
And then on the way back, coming down through northern Wisconsin, there was, because we drove down from Duluth, like down the middle of northern Wisconsin into Madison, there was some light snow flurries, but it like wasn't even enough to stick to those roads or anything. So we had great traveling weather, and I got to see a lot of family that I don't get to see often. So it was kind of like a emotional roller coaster for me the
Mhm.
last couple of weeks. And then I got home Wednesday, and then yesterday my daughter brought my granddaughter, because my daughter was speaking at a children's conference, and I'm the only one she trusted, I guess, to watch Eliana for 2 nights. So Eliana is over here. I don't know if you can see, but her
Mm-mm.
Mama Roo pops up over the name tag every now and then.
Mhm.
She just fell asleep. Like, I'm glad you chose me last, Jamie, because she fell asleep while you were talking.
Oh, I have that effect on people.
Well, she can't hear you. I have my headphones.
Oh.
But I'm afraid that if I had
Mhm.
spoken first, like, she might have popped, because her eyes are closing and she's popping them open, you know.
Mhm.
So if I go mute and kind of go, missing in action for a minute, it might because she woke up. So I just want to forewarn everyone. But she generally goes to sleep at 10 and sleeps for 2 hours, my daughter said. So we should be okay.
That's awesome.
I
remember
know the
those
audience would probably appreciate a cameo, but if she wants to sleep, that's better.
Mhm.
You got a lot of prayers and sympathy in the chat, Tina.
Thanks,
Gigi
guys.
says that you were missed. She's sorry for your loss. Piper is very sorry. It's never easy to lose a loved one, especially when you are close. Shell says, sorry for your loss, Tina. Big hugs and prayers for comfort. Catherine says she's so sorry, and Teresa sends her love also. So
Thanks.
we did miss you for sure.
Missed you guys too.
Yeah. It's not the same without you. And I'm really sorry for your loss, but what a blessing that you were able to go and spend time with your family. And
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's the What's Up segment. Next, we dive into the topic of the day, which this week was inspired by someone in our Facebook group. And maybe this is news to you that we have a Facebook group. If it is, you should mosey on over there and join it because it's kind of a fun place to hang out.
The link is
And
in our show notes if anyone's interested.
yes, yes.
Mhm.
So please do join.
And be
Um,
sure you answer the questions so that we can just accept you.
yes. We don't like rejecting anybody, but you got to answer the questions.
I don't mind rejecting people.
All right, Julia Sugarbaker.
Oh,
If you
that's
can't follow
great.
the rules, you shouldn't be allowed. So there you go.
Well, Christine Josephs knows how to follow the rules because
Yes.
she's a member of our Facebook group and she posted the question. Okay, and her question was, what would you most suggest for writing an excellent book? And it was interesting because like I looked at the question and I was like, well, she's not getting very much of a response. I'm going to respond. And then my fingers just kind of wouldn't move on my keyboard because, ladies, help me out. Was the question just so big?
It was vague. It was too vague. I think it's a very big question
It's
to
a big
answer.
question.
And it's a very personal to the person. Like,
Yeah.
okay, what do you already know and do well versus what do you need to maybe work on and learn? And you don't know that unless you actually have a conversation with a person to know where
Mhm.
they're at.
Do
And
one of you
how do you
have-
define excellent too? There's a whole nother layer there that we could like dig into, but
Yes,
you
yes,
know.
yes. And this is not about like, oh no, it's a bad question. It was not a bad question.
No,
The deal is
no.
it was like, okay, so it was like, how do you write an excellent book? And I'm not saying just a meh book or a book that is just okay. I want to know how to write an excellent book that will be like successful. And so I want all of the tips. Do you have a class that you would recommend? Do you have like a book that you would read or something like that? And I was just kind of like, oh my gosh. And then a million sort of questions popped up into my head. And so we're like, this is going to make for a great podcast episode because how would we answer it? And
Mhm.
all of us are like, well, we don't want to answer it. But what if we had to? What if
Right.
we had to answer this question?
Right. Because honestly, it's kind of like, and I'm sure you have each just had people come up to you and say, "Hey, I know you are an author. Could I come over some afternoon? You could teach me how to self-publish, or could
In an
you like,
afternoon. Yeah.
yeah, or could you teach me how?" And I was like, that's kind. I feel it's kind of like one of those kind of questions where it's like it's just big, right? But you're right. Like, if we had to answer it, what would we say? Right. So,
Yeah.
Jamie, did you want to go first? What would you say if we were like forced to answer this and this person needed to answer right now? How would you answer that question?
Well, first though, I want to define like what is successful to the person. So, I mean
Mm,
like no, okay, like tell me what you mean by successful because do you mean like a book that's going to sell the way that like Twilight sold? Do you mean a book that I would personally pick up and not be able to put down because they are not the same book?
true. Right.
So, do you know what I'm saying? So, like,
Uh-huh.
I would want to ask that clarifying question, but you're saying we have to answer without getting the answer to that question.
Right.
What,
And
what,
and the
what?
question the actual question was an excellent book. Not so much successful, though I think that the word might have been in the question, but what makes an excellent book? So
Right.
again, that's hard to
hmm
define, but
Okay.
if you
So, if I had to answer, for me, an excellent book is a book where the writer disappears and the words just kind of go into your brain and you almost forget you're even reading. And so, to me, that is the ability to write well. And so, because that hinges on the ability to write well, my advice would be to write every single day and to improve your actual writing by writing every single day. That would be my tip.
and you've lived by that tip too. I mean, I know of there's been different stages in your career where there's one year where you did the alphabet. I think it wasn't
Mhm.
there like there was like an alphabet challenge and every day you wrote something for a different letter of the alphabet every single day. Like you never missed. Weekends, holidays, you didn't miss for like a whole year at least, right?
Yes, because I have not ever thought about like, oh, I want to put out an excellent book, but I have thought I want to put out excellent writing.
Yeah.
And
So I feel like that would be my advice. What,
Yeah.
Tina?
And going and on that topic of being an excellent writer, if I was going to recommend a book for somebody to read, I have it here. I don't know if you guys can see. Oh, let me go. It's Drake's Brutal Writing Advice, Dynamic Story Creation, Honing the Physical and Invisible Layers. This is the book that has helped me with my writing craft more than any of the other ones that I've done. And
Mhm.
it's actually been required reading for Disney writers. If you wanted
Mm.
to write for Disney, this book was required reading. And it's really good. And he is kind of brutal. So if you get your feelings hurt easily, you might not want to use it. But
And
um,
I know in Christine's question, she said like that reading a book or something like doesn't really do it for her, but like for a lot of other people, it might, right? So that's a
yeah, and
good
you can
suggestion.
find this guy on YouTube and all over the place giving his
Mhm.
brutal writing advice. So
All right. If I had to answer, or so Jamie says, write every day.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to answer it, and I know it's gonna be a shock to everybody, but my answer is learn story structure and how stories work. Now
Yes.
everyone's like, okay, we get it, Jen. Like we knew what you were gonna say, but I really believe that that is for me at least that is the crux of how to write an excellent story. Because I mean, if you've ever been seeing in a movie that just feels like it's just droning on and on, or you're losing interest in the movie, it probably is because the movie is not sticking to a story structure. And it's the same thing with books. If you've ever reading a book and you just abandon it, not because you didn't like the characters, like just because you couldn't get into it. If you're reading a book and you give up on it because you just can't get into it, the problem most likely is story structure. And I really believe that excellent writing comes from knowing story structure. Now, are there people out there that don't need to outline? And like, yes, but they innately somewhere in them are able to write a book according to story structure. And everything has an ebb and flow, right? Books, movies, even life has an ebb and flow. And learning that, and if you don't have it naturally, like it doesn't come to you naturally as you're writing, then learning story structure and how to do like specifically like a 3-act structure, that will make your writing far more excellent, in my opinion.
Well, because you oftentimes hear a book you can't put down because they've learned how to take advantage of hooks and cliffhangers and just basically like having the disasters happen in the right places and things like that. Those are the elements of, because again, if we're defining write an excellent book, is
Mhm.
your definition of that a book nobody will be able to put down? So
Right.
again, how are you defining excellent?
Right. And I know
I
I've
love that tip.
And I know I've always said that characters count. Characters really matter. If people don't love your characters, they're not gonna keep reading the book. But I do think that through story structure is another way. That's how another way that you make your characters likable. Because if you have the arcs in the right place and your character is changing, moving, and improving, then they're gonna be more likable than someone who's just flatline and is annoying or like the whole time. Even the most annoying character can become more likable, or you start to root for them if the story is structured properly. So story structure, flat out, that would be my number one answer.
It goes hand in hand.
Yep. What?
Mhm.
All right, Tina. So what would your tip be if you had to answer this question?
Well, and my caveat was if I had to answer this question and I couldn't use your answers.
Yeah, because we made her go last.
We pounced on these.
And by the way, Cindy, yes, that is Maxwell Drake that wrote that book. Um, you won't find. I would challenge you to find somebody who had just innately can write and use story structure, who has not consumed excellent stories.
Correct.
That is
Agree.
how their brain can
Yes.
innately just create a story that has that structure, is because they have consumed, and not just a few, they have spent their life consuming excellent stories. And so my number one advice that if I couldn't use theirs is read, watch, and consume excellent stories and fill your mind. And um, I don't necessarily stick with my genre. Some people have to stick with their genre, but just whatever you define an excellent story as, just input that.
Mhm.
And then your output is more likely to be excellent.
Do you think if somebody's just starting out and they're trying to figure out how to write an excellent story, do you think they should probably start with their genre though,
I
Tina?
think so. Especially if because each genre has their little tropes and their
Mhm.
little things that readers are expecting,
And
and
rules. There are rules.
you
Yeah.
have to know what those are.
Mhm.
Because if you write a fantasy story and it doesn't give your reader what they are expecting, they're not going to give you a good review. They might not finish your book and they might not think it's excellent.
And so, like, by reading books, especially in your genre, even if you don't wanna learn story structure, if you read a lot of really excellent written books, you'll know it, you'll feel
Mhm.
it, you'll know what to expect. So whether you realize it or not, reading a lot of really good books will help with that. And
And
I agree.
even movies and going to live plays, you're still consuming story when you do those things.
That's true.
So I just would like to take a moment to point out that as we are talking here about how to write an excellent book, and when we were giving our advice, and even during the planning of this, what we never talked about at all was like coming up with a great idea, coming up with like a
Mhm.
winning character. Like we didn't even think about those things. And I wonder if it's because we assumed that you would have one or the other before you would even start,
Right, because why do you
or
start writing a book if you don't have one or the other, right?
right. And
Yeah.
so I just think it's kind of interesting that we kind of
Mm.
leapfrogged over that. And I
Yeah.
wonder if it's because those really aren't the things that make books excellent,
Mhm.
because and arguably, say what you want about Twilight, the woman made a career out of it, okay? And
Yeah.
so arguably she hit a home run, but she was not the first person to write about a vampire.
Right.
She was not the first person to write about shapeshifting. She was not, and say what you want about any book out there, there's nothing new under the sun. And so it isn't necessarily that you're going to grab the brass ring for the most original this or the latest and greatest that. It's going to be your personal effort and spin and take on that thing that is going to give it excellence. Only you can write it, right?
Mhm.
And
Anyway, I just think
that,
it's interesting.
that takes us back to what you consider to be a great book. Because if you want to write a book that all your readers are going to want to read, if that's your definition, then that most readers, if they like science fiction, they like to read a book that was like the last book they really liked.
Mhm.
They're not really looking for new and different and unique.
So then I would almost think it would be a bonus tip to know your audience,
Right.
Exactly.
because you have to know who's going to be reading this and what they will decide is excellent.
If that's your goal, if your goal is that I want to feel like I wrote an excellent book that could win literary awards, that's a different matter. Most books that win literary awards do not make the New York Times bestseller list.
Interesting. I've done neither, so we're
I've read them. I haven't written them.
I do wanna, give a shout out to one of our listeners, Crystal Gilkey. She actually did respond, and I loved her response, and I'm gonna read it. She said, "Writing sprints with the group and listening to the others read and post their sprints on Fridays, they've really helped me with my writing. There's no shortcut. You have," or that's what she said. "They really helped me with my writing," which I love that because first of all, it helps us to see that, like, what we're doing works. Like, we are
Mhm.
helping encourage you guys, encouraging sprints and writing. Like, another listener who's not associated with us, she feels that that is helping her to write more of an excellent book. And ultimately, I feel like there's no shortcut. You just have to put the work in. You got to show up every day and write every day. You got to learn your craft, whether you learn story structure or you put a ton of time into reading as well. You got to, like, there's just no shortcut to writing an excellent book. You just got to put the time in. And you look at us, and we've been doing this for years, and we haven't hit that zenith yet. You know what I mean? We're still we're climbing up and trying to get to the point where, like, this is a full-on career for us, right? But we are not giving up, and we're putting in the time, and we're all doing it together. So that's what the cool thing is about this group of Christian writers too, is we're all in this together. So
And I wonder, like, I mean, I would think that the two of you would say your books are excellent. I think the work that I've put out, I wouldn't say is mediocre. I mean, it feels braggadocious to be like, oh, excellent. But I feel like, why am I publishing it if I don't personally have some sort of a standard that it has met? And
Right.
so again, there's got to be a standard to that it just goes hand in hand with what we were talking about last week. You have to decide that this is what you're putting out there and this is excellent in your estimation because it's your name and your brand on it.
Right. I at the very minimum, I strive for excellence, right?
Yeah.
And so if that is your goal and you strive for excellence, then you're not going to put out a product that isn't, at least according to your standard, it isn't excellent. And so,
And I have to say, my standard may have changed
because you've
as
gotten
I
better.
grow as a writer, but for the time that at the time that I released book 1, I believe it was as excellent as I could make it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And if your standard is something that J.R.R. Tolkien would write, well, then good luck because you're not him.
Right.
Right.
So excellent needs to become, you need to figure out your own standard and then meet it. Okay. So I think we've covered the topic. What do y'all think?
I think it sounds
so.
good. I'm
All
ready
right.
to move. I'm ready to hear what you guys wrote. That's what I'm ready for.
Oh, I'm not happy with mine this week, but whatever.
Oh,
Okay,
really?
so let's tell the listeners what we're talking about. In case you've never tuned in before, we are going to what was the name of the listener, Christine Josephs, who commented about our writing sprints?
Yeah. No, Crystal Gilkey.
Crystal Gilkey. Thanks for mentioning them because that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to transition into the part of the program where we talk about our writing sprints. And what is that? That's where we set a timer just before we go live on the podcast here for 15 minutes. And then we each write for 15 minutes according to the sprint prompt that is assigned for the podcast, which you can find on our social media in case you also would like to set a timer for 15 minutes and then write. And the purpose of this is to just keep your writing muscles worked out so that you've written something at least one day a week. And I always pick on Jen to go first. Jen, why don't you share with the audience what our prompt was this week and what you wrote for it?
Well, it was our second Friday. So second Friday is always a sentence. And our sentence this week was, my biggest problem is deciding what to do next. And I don't love what I wrote, but I don't hate it. Here's what I've discovered about some of the things that I write during sprint time. And then we, again, like Jamie said, we just share it, right? There's so much I want to go back in here and change because it was just a sprint. And I already, by the end of it, want to change some things. Like, I don't want it to be this way. And I don't want his office to look like that. Like, there's just different things, but we can't. But the good news is I can do that later. At least I've gotten some writing done today. So this is what you're going to hear today is I've got some writing done today. And we're back in the world with Marty and Mr. Boss.
Oh, good.
Miss Evans, could you come in here for a moment? Marnie froze in her tracks. She hadn't seen Mr. Boss since the incident last week. He hadn't attended the staff meeting or found any excuse to happen by her cubicle to harass her in the last 6 days. She wasn't even certain he had been in the office, so hearing him call to her from his dungeon, as she liked to call it, came as quite a shock. She took a calming breath and turned on her heels and stepped into his office. Mr. Boss stood across the room, his back to her, staring at a wall covered in Post-it notes. She took a moment to observe the one room she had never been in at the office. It wasn't at all what she'd expected. Although he had the corner office, one that afforded him the luxury of 2 walls covered in windows, he had taken the liberty of covering most of the view of Boston below with blueprints and planning boards. It looked a mess. Well, an organized sort of mess that Marnie hadn't expected. It looked as if, dare she even think it, that Mr. Boss actually took his job seriously. My biggest problem is deciding what to do next. She hadn't made a sound to give him any indication that she had actually entered the room, but somehow he knew she was there, staring at his back. Excuse me? He picked up a smaller print off the credenza. The Wilmington Project. We've hit a roadblock of sorts. I know it can be circumvented, but I just don't know how to proceed. He turned and handed her a folder he had been holding. Do you mind taking a look? Me? She asked. I'm only the social media director. Mr. Boss finally turned his eyes on her. We both know you're much more than that. He hadn't said anything inappropriate, but somehow it made her cheeks grow warm. She took the folder from him. What kind of roadblock? And I gotta admit, I stopped 30 seconds early because I didn't know what kind of roadblock. I didn't even know that they would have blueprints in the office because I don't think this is like, here's the things. I don't think that that's the kind of work that they do. I don't know, but it was a sprint. So there you go.
Well, that's good. I really appreciated it. I liked it. I liked the fact that he has the corner office, but it isn't about that for him. He's actually a worker, and she
Mhm.
didn't expect that of him. It was very revealing.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm still processing, but I really liked it.
Yeah, I also like the detail that he knew that she was there.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was very well written,
Oh.
actually, for just a sprint.
Oh, thanks.
How
I
many
really
words
appreciate
was that?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me go up to tools here and see.
I always really enjoy the chemistry between those two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
It's really good.
346. So
Really? It
yeah.
was really good. It felt
My s-
very full.
Thanks. My sprints lately, I used to get up closer to 600, and my sprints are, I think, like half the amount, but I feel like I'm crafting more than I used to. Like before, it was just like get words out and fix them later, So, yeah. So thanks.
Interesting. And then did you know that this would be a Marnie thing when you saw the prompt, or did that pop into your head when we
As
said
soon as I
go?
saw the prompt, I thought Marnie, like
Yeah.
immediately. I didn't know where it was going to go, but immediately I thought Marnie. Well, at least this morning when I saw it, I try not to pay attention when we're planning, like, because although I don't want to think about it too much, but yeah. So
Okay, so you've got some feedback here. Liz Henderson. Hi, Liz. She said, I liked it, especially how he knew she was there without looking. Yep. Shell said it had a good bit of tension. Jen, love that world. Yes,
thanks.
it's one of my favorites too. If he gets to be named anything but Mr. Boss, I'll be sad. Teresa Thomas said, I like that he knew she was there too. Yep. And Gigi said, Jen, I loved the sprint. Mr. Boss understands Marnie has skills. Yeah, that was a really good line. And Piper says, ooh, that did get my curiosity going.
Thanks, everyone. I
Really
appreciate it.
awesome.
So I know that the host usually goes in the middle, Jamie, but I have a little baby that's squirming.
Uh-oh,
over
you
here.
better go then.
And I have a content warning on my sprint.
Okay.
Oh no.
If you want trigger warning, so child abuse and violence. And I did not
Alright.
know this was going to come out when I sat down to write, and I'm sorry. And I thought about not reading it. So if you feel like you don't want to listen to that, please mute me.
Okay.
Okay.
So here we go. Celeste's fingers moved of their own accord, recording each word said by the attorneys, judge, and witnesses, without her mind needing to engage. How many years had she been doing this? A silent witness to the horrors and evils that one human could inflict on another. The child victims were the worst. Celeste tried not to glare at the defendant, who sat smugly in his seat, intensely studying his fingernails, while the mother of his victim sobbed out her testimony in the witness box. It was too much for Celeste to focus on, so she let her mind wander. She imagined the defendant running through a wintry wood, the fog giving it an ominous feel. He looked behind, the panic evident in his white eyes. She saw his face the moment his pursuer caught up to him. First surprise and then horror as they injected him with the poison that made him immobile but fully aware. She saw the blood drain from his face as it drained from his body, as the Burdizzo did its work. No more children feel the pain of his evil impulses. She walked away then, leaving his blood staining the snow in an ever-widening circle. A week later, the cute blonde in the too-tight dress behind the news desk spoke in a tone unworthy of the facts she was reporting. A man's body was found in a wood. The details were gruesome. The main suspect, the father of a child he'd been acquitted of abusing. Celeste smiled. She knew the evidence wouldn't convict the father. She knew justice had been served. Her biggest problem, not knowing what to do next. But another day in court would solve the dilemma.
Dun dun dun.
So Celeste did it. She like imagined it and then she actually did it. Is that what like?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Woo! All right. I love all of this stuff. So is Celeste the attorney? Like
She's
she's
the
in the
No,
court.
court
stenographer.
reporter.
All right, I missed that part. Okay, the stenographer. Because she can't a stenographer, like that's why I thought it wasn't her because like they can't like they gotta pay attention because they're typing it. But I guess if she's really good at her job, she can do both, right?
Well, if you've been
Interesting.
doing it for years and years, you could probably.
Yeah, they're words or
Yeah.
characters instead of like you don't put the emotion in it. You just do the words as you hear them.
Yeah.
Right.
And I went down to Indiana a day early because I didn't want to drive 3 hours that morning to meet up with my cousin. I
Mhm.
stopped in Goshen, Indiana and met my sister for the first time that I found through Ancestry
Aw.
DNA, and she was a criminal justice major,
Mhm.
and she wrote her thesis on female serial killers.
Wow.
And we had
Wow.
this long discussion about it.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's why that came out that way, but I did not plan that. It just came out that way.
That's amazing. First of all, how awesome that you got to spend some time with her. That's really cool. But yeah, that's really interesting. Can I ask a question? I know that this is supposed to be just like all positive, but did you say Bradizo? What is it?
Verdezo.
What is that?
It's the tool that they use to castrate a bull.
Oh,
Oh.
that's some interesting, unique information that you had in your head before the sprint started. Like, wow.
See,
Like,
Tina, I like your detective thriller
me too.
stuff. I really hope that someday we get to get a book of it. Because when you have even your female detective that was in the, male world anyway, I hope that maybe someday you'll explore that because I also think that you find it fascinating to learn things about that genre and things like that.
Mhm.
And that's the genre I most like to read.
Yeah.
Interesting.
If it's the one you'll most like to read, it's
Yeah.
probably the one you would probably most enjoy writing too.
And my sister has this theory that Jack the Ripper was a female. And I have ideas. I just have ideas. That's all I
Wow.
can say.
Interesting.
So lots of chatter about your piece. Piper says, wow, Tina, that was so good. Vigilante justice at its best. Liz
Mhm.
Henderson is like, what? Wow. Shell says she did it before and she'll do it again. Ooh, Tina, so good. Piper says, oh my gosh, what an amazing find, Tina. A sister. Oh, yeah. That's really amazing that you found your sister. Oh, Tina, that is really good. You have to love justice. Mhm. And Piper's laughing, and she says the expression when you learn that information. Yes. Uh-huh.
I can't hide my emotions.
Where do we
I'm
have notes for like parts that we should like cut out for some kind of a like year in review reel?
Yeah, that one for sure.
Hey, I did give a content warning, okay?
That was good. That was really great, Tina. I enjoyed that.
Teresa says, my husband distracted me at the end, but I love the setup and the scene in the courtroom was crystal clear. Agree.
Oh, you're gonna have to go back and watch it later. You missed the best part, Teresa. All right. So speaking of best part, we saved you for last, Jamie. Let's hear it.
I don't know why. It's really just very disappointing today. Although, hold on. I'm just having a hard time bringing it up here. Jen, can you say something about our book or something?
Sure. If you see over my head here, which I can't move my computer a whole lot now because it's acting up, but we have our book, 30 Days of Writing Sprint Prompts, an instructional workbook to help you establish a daily writing habit. It is available on Amazon, and Eliana is awake. Everyone, come to your screens real quick if you're off doing dishes, listening to us. Right, that there's baby Ellie.
Oh, look at the baby. Hi.
Oh, what happened to your 2-hour nap, precious?
Oh, she looks like she's like gonna cry. Oh, with the boo boo lip. All right. I don't know how I'm going to compete with that visual, but I'll give you my story. It's good because it's not a great. Anyway. Okay. My biggest problem is deciding what to do next. Kathy chewed her bottom lip. What do you mean? Danny picked up the top of the puzzle box and began rifling through the pieces. Kathy scowled and carefully retrieved it from him. Well, I have the blue bits, the sky and the ocean, or the green part of the ocean over here. Or maybe I could get started on some of the ship, Danny sighed. Seems to me you'd start with the ship. It's the focal point of the piece, after all. Isn't Sarah ready yet? Kathy asked, eager for her older sister to show up and whisk this annoying interloper away. It had been several days since she'd had any real time to work on the puzzle. I'm right here, and no, I'm not ready. Her sister rode into the room on a cloud of rave hairspray and Love's Baby Soft. She kissed her boyfriend on the top of the head and said, I just need to tell Daddy where we're going and what time I'll be home. Danny started to stand. No, you wait here, Sarah said. I'll be back in a wink. Kathy moaned inwardly as Danny reached out to turn some of the pieces she'd placed inside the puzzle's perimeter. What's this? He said, holding a piece out for her inspection. Looks like a seabird, Kathy said, pointing at the poster that had been included and was now temporarily fastened to the wall above the table with a piece of Scotch tape. Ah, Danny said, and then repeated the ah with significantly more enthusiasm. Before Kathy could say anything, he'd snapped up a piece from the other side of the table and snapped it together with the piece he'd been holding. There you are, he said, beaming, as if he expected Kathy to thank him. Kathy did not know what to say. She sat in stunned silence as Danny stood and hovered over the table, collecting up pieces she now recognized as the bits with seabirds on them. He's caught the bug, she realized, using the term her mother had coined for Kathy's passion for puzzles, and panic rose in her chest. She wanted to scream, to flip the table, to do anything to stop this lanky teenage boy from manhandling her puzzle, but she seemed only capable of watching him do so in frozen stupefaction. Okay, let's go, came Sarah's voice from the other room. Danny's head snapped up. 1 sec, he said, and placed the pieces in his hand neatly in one corner of the table. See ya, he said, and headed out of the room. So he didn't have the bug after all, Kathy thought, relieved. She gathered up the pile of seabird pieces and flung them into the box. Then she reached down and disconnected the 2 pieces Danny had joined together.
I love this. I don't know why you don't love this. First of all, loves Baby Soft. No said that tells us when this is happening. Like, I had forgotten about Loves Baby Soft. As soon as you said that, I was like, oh. Floated in. This is a great line too. Floated in on a wave of a cloud of rave hairspray. Like that, along with Loves Baby Soft. I'm there. I know I can see the room with the 80s decorated house and like. So well done, Jamie. I don't know why you didn't like this. Oh my gosh.
Thanks, I am 15 again.
I know.
And I can smell the rave and the Loves Baby Soft, and my hair is sticking up about this high.
Yes.
That is so good. And how dare he touch her puzzle and put pieces together? Who does he think he is?
I know. And so like you know how you said that there's things that you would change and things like that? Well, in my mind it's like she should have like been mad at herself for even like saying the words, because like she feels like that invited him, almost like welcoming a vampire into your room. Like if I would have more time, like that would have been how she felt. And I felt like it was really missing a lot of her reason for not liking people to touch the puzzle. But people are saying in the comments, they get it. So I didn't necessarily have to say it because people understand. Nope, it's my puzzle.
Yes. Piper says, I used to wear Loves Baby Soft. I think we all did. Shell says stupefaction, word of the day. Yes. Liz says, I hate it when people help me with my puzzle.
Right?
Yes. Piper says, Jamie, your newsletter that went out this morning was about my newfound interest in puzzles. How newsletter, how serendipitous.
That's awesome, Piper. Yeah. How fun.
Shell says, I love her spite. I spent hours and hours on puzzles when I was a teen. My husband groans when I start on starts one now because he knows he's lost me.
Yeah.
Gigi says, Jamie, awesome, so great. The Loves Baby Soft, so great. You made that scene real. She for sure did.
Oh,
Piper says she can't do a puzzle herself. She can do it with others with their puzzles. I'm not a puzzle person, but I'm more than willing to sit down with someone else and do a puzzle. But yeah. Liz says, I don't think I've ever heard of Loves Baby Soft. Well, then you're too young.
Too young.
You just dated yourself.
It kind of smells like baby powder. And it was
for some reason that was like, we thought that was great to smell like baby powder when we
all day cologne or something.
I have to say, I still like to put on baby lotion sometimes.
And in case anybody's wondering, you can still buy it. Rite Aid
carries
it. Amazon has it. Someone's trying to sell some used that looks really not right. It looks brown.
Yeah.
Vintage. That's so funny. Oh my goodness.
Well, I
So
feel like the synchronicity with Piper's puzzles. You should have a puzzle line, Piper. Okay, anyway, I feel like the synchronicity is like the sauerkraut thing all over again, but
yeah,
just
it's
with
weird.
Piper.
Yeah.
I have
Yes.
to say, I am addicted to Puzzle Planet, where you don't have to have table space. You can do your puzzle on your laptop.
Yeah, it was really interesting because there was a period of time during this past year where I was very much into doing a puzzle, just like when I didn't have anything else going on. And
Mhm.
it is very remarkable how your brain will be like in a different category, for lack of a better word. I don't even know. And
Mhm.
like for Shell to say, "Oh, he's lost me," it's kind of like you get kind of a fixation, right? And
Mm.
so it's interesting that I will go into a phase of it and then come out. Oh, she's waiting for her wooden puzzles to show up this weekend. Ooh.
I got my daughter some wooden 3D puzzles for her birthday, and they actually have moving pieces and stuff once you if you get it together right. One is
Oh,
like you put a marble in it and it goes through, and yeah, there's some fun finds in puzzles.
Piper, if you want to make a post in the Facebook group, I'd love to see your wooden puzzles. And then maybe Jen
Yes.
can put hers in there.
Oh yeah, I can do that. All right,
Mhm.
awesome.
All right. Well, we're going to move into the final portion of the podcast, which is the what's next. And we'll let Tina go first in case she has to randomly mute herself because of fussing. And so, Jen, try not to fuss while Tina's giving her what's next, please.
It is time for my diaper change, but I'll try not to.
Oh boy, yeah, the precast is fun and games. Okay, so anyway, Tina, what's next for you?
Well, I had given myself a personal goal of having my first draft of this book done by April 15th. And then this whole 2 weeks of, stuff happened. So, I may just like go into my Hobbit cave or Hobbit hole or whatever and try to write until it's done so that I can still be done by April 15th. So
Hmm.
we will see if my intellection brain will allow me to do that.
All right. Well, I think that's an exciting goal.
I agree.
And I think it's really interesting how you're like, you've got this deadline and you're dedicated to make it. That's very interesting. Yeah.
Well,
I want to know how it goes.
I really want to publish on my mom's birthday.
Oh,
So
how
that's kind of
nice.
my which is May 1st. So that's kind of my motivation.
I gotcha. Awesome. Well, good for you. My what's next is showing up to work on the book for the office hours. And if you want to come, I do 20-minute sprints. They start at the top of the hour. So from 10 to 10:20, I'm working. And then from 10:20 to 10:30, there's a break. I'll either stretch or get up or just say hello to whoever else shows up. And then from 10:30 to 10:50, I'll be working. So 20 minutes and then 10 minutes off. From 10 to 12, dedicating to doing the book work. And what's scaring me is as I'm moving into the second part of the book, I am thinking that it might need more. Like I'm thinking about some scenes that I'm currently telling that might need to be shown. And it's like stressing me out that it's going to need maybe more work than I thought. But oh, well, do I want it excellent or not? So those are some decisions I'll have to make.
All right.
All right. What's next for you, Jen?
Well, first, Liz says her what's next is writing during more than one of my baby's naps. It would be nice to finish the draft before I turn 35. Oh yeah, so you're younger than us, Liz. So I'm sure the Lost Baby Sauce was I mean, it's around, but it was not a thing by the
No,
time
it
you
was
were
not.
our age.
No.
So I got no work done this week. I spent a lot of time like really just kind of laying around my house, like moaning about a headache and just not feeling good, and so my what's next is to hopefully get feeling better and get back into editing because I still have a lot of editing to do on book 4. So that's my what's next.
Well, and we'd really love to hear from you all in the Facebook group or reach out to one of us with a private message because I know that we turned a whole podcast into this one Facebook comment, and we really hope that it's okay and that the person who made that comment feels like it's a good thing and a happy thing. But we really appreciate inspiration from our audience to know that we're giving you what you want to hear. So if you've got an idea for a podcast episode, if you need some advice or help and you'd like to see us cover a particular topic, please do reach out and make the suggestion to us, because we're always looking for topic ideas. After you've been doing this for a couple hundred episodes, you kind of start to wonder, didn't we cover this before? But maybe you need us to rehash it and go back to it and get an updated take on it. So, but next week, because it is St. Patty's Day, we've decided it's an appropriate day to break out the shenanigans. So we hope that you'll tune in to see what kind of blarney and malarkey we come up with. And I guess we'll see you then. That are we wrapping up for today, ladies? All right.
Sounds good.
So until then, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.